Okay, hi guys. Welcome to our fifth Instagram Live. Thanks for joining in. If you haven't seen any of the previous episodes, all four episodes are up on our YouTube channel at Athlete Performance Authority. So if you'd like to go and revisit them or watch them for the first time, log on to YouTube and type in Athlete Performance Authority, and you'll be able to watch the live episodes in full on our channel. Today we'll be chatting about athlete profiling, just the benefits of building a robust, comprehensive profiling system, and how it can contribute to an overall program in terms of everything you do. So Wayne will be joining us again just to give us his thoughts on the whole athlete profiling and how he integrates it into his current setup. We'll bring Wayne into the live now.
Just waiting for the connection.
How's it, Rob?
How's it, Wayne? There we go. Cool. Thanks for joining.
No worries.
Can
Good
you
to
hear
be
me
back.
okay?
Yeah.
So I think there's a bit of a delay.
Yeah, I can hear you, but it is a little bit delayed.
Cool. All right, we'll work around it. So just chatting athlete profiling and the role it plays in the overall program. I think in terms of testing, a lot of people have different thoughts. There's a bit of a divide, I think. Does it interfere
Yeah.
with normal training? Does it give you actionable data? Does it change the way that you actually prescribe training? All that sort of stuff. So what are your thoughts on testing?
Yeah, I think like you said, there's two schools of thought, and I think I sit in the middle of both of those schools of thought because I think at some point you're going to go into a team where you don't know your athletes, and you need to create some sort of profile where you can actually identify, are these athletes carrying the right sort of physiological makeup that's going to allow them to compete at the level that they need to compete at. And I think it's very difficult to do that without any sort of testing. And if you're not creating that profile, how do you start with these athletes? So I agree that, yeah, look, testing does take up some time, but I do think it's a worthwhile investment, especially in a new system. I think the debate is how often you retest in a season or in a cycle. But I definitely think it does, from my perspective, it definitely helps profiling the athletes and coming up with a plan on where are these energy leaks in these athletes. And because every athlete's going to have strengths and weaknesses. Some are going to be a little bit different to others. But if you can identify those energy leaks and decide, okay, cool, let's work on this aspect for athlete X and another aspect for athlete Y, you're probably going to get the best out of them. But if you don't start with some sort of profiling, you don't have the baseline data.
Sure. And how often would you recommend testing?
Yeah, so it's quite a different. I think it's all context specific. I don't think you should be doing more than 3 to 4 times in a year, if you can call it that. I think you need to identify in your system where it best fits in. Most elite sports, the seasons can be quite long. If you look at soccer, for example, it's very difficult in another round of testing. But I think the other important part is you need to see what sort of decay in physiological makeup are your athletes having in a season. So I'd recommend at least pre-season and then when the season finishes, just to see what's happening there. Are they able to maintain their physical performance throughout the season? Is it something you need to work on? Do you need to microdose a little bit more in certain areas? Are they detraining in certain areas more than others? And that becomes important because if they start detraining in area X, so for example, speed, we know that decays quite quickly and you're not microdosing with speed. I think you're going to have a problem in your season. So identify which athletes decay faster is quite important, and who can maintain their physical attributes for longer is quite important, in my opinion. How you do that, you need to see how it best fits in. It is true that testing can interfere with your training program, but I think there's ways and means around it.
Yeah. And I think just by testing as well, it gives the players a bit of confidence to see that they've started at place X and now they're actually at place Y. So also from that player's confidence perspective, I think just doing that testing, not too regularly, but on a regular basis, gives the player that sort of self-confidence as well.
Oh, 100%. I think the other thing with that is when we're testing, we're also trying to see what are we doing? Is it actually working? Are we implementing the right strategies for each athlete? Are we seeing the improvements we need to see? And not data, it's very, very difficult. You can guess. And ultimately, yes, we can see improvements on the pitch and we can see improvements via GPS, but not everyone has access to this sort of stuff. So I think coming up with a simple test battery that identifies that you can probably test as regularly as you possibly can, that identifies these sort of discrepancies is important. And like you said, it gives the athletes a little bit of confidence that they feel they're improving. I think it also gives coaching staff in confidence, not only in the athlete, but we do as a team, as a high performance team. And ultimately, if they're improving the testing, ideally, you want to see that transfer onto the pitch or whatever sport they're playing.
And what's your thoughts on the idea regarding training is testing as well? So if we're constantly monitoring their lifts in the gym, we're constantly monitoring their on-pitch stuff through GPS. How do you feel that contributes to a testing perspective?
Yeah, I definitely think, look, you're constantly monitoring your athletes. I think it depends on the environment you're in again, what equipment you got. But yeah, I think like the environment that we find ourselves in, we are constantly monitoring what the athletes are doing. We're seeing how much they're lifting. We're seeing what sort of distances and speeds they are able to achieve on the pitch. I think in certain circumstances where people don't have access to GPS, it becomes a little bit of guesswork. And we try to eliminate as much guesswork in our work as we can, because we want to actually get definitive data or real good objective data to see, are these athletes improving? And I think it's very difficult without fancy equipment sometimes. And if you decide that testing is not for you, I think it becomes a little bit of guesswork.
Sure. In terms of like in your microcycle, weekly or even daily screening tests, such as the knee to wall, groin squeeze, sit and reach tests, what are your thoughts regarding that?
Yeah, I think that's where the monitoring becomes really important. And from my side, I don't have the aspect to be able to implement all those type of tests.